Amara, a 9-year-old black girl, only wanted to learn karate. But inside the dojo, whispers followed her, mockery, smirks, and cruel eyes fixed on her every move. To them, she was an easy target, small, quiet, and different. Ethan, the ringleader, was certain she didn't belong. But what no one expected was the fire building inside her. When the challenge came, Amara stood tall. And in under a minute, she proved that strength isn't measured by size, but by courage that refuses to break. Before we dive into this suspenseful story, drop a comment with your city so we can see how far it reaches. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. She was only 9 years old. Just a child, full of energy, excitement, and the kind of determination that could light up a room. She never asked for attention, never wanted to stand out for the wrong reasons. Yet, from the moment she stepped into that karate dojo, all eyes seemed to lock on her, and not with kindness. For the others, she wasn't just another student. To them, she was different, out of place. They whispered, they snickered, and soon they mocked. To them, she was just a black girl trying to step into a space they thought wasn't hers. And though she tried to ignore the words, the laughter, the pointed stares, what happened next would become a test of not just her skill, but her strength, her courage, and her right to be seen as an equal. Because when the moment came, when she was backed into a corner with nowhere to hide, Amara would show them something they never expected, that their cruelty had awakened a fire in her, and that fire would not be silenced. Amara's world had always been simple. School in the morning, homework in the afternoon, and karate practice in the evening. Her parents had enrolled her not because they wanted her to compete, but because they wanted her to have confidence, discipline, and the ability to protect herself in a world that too often looked at her differently. And she loved it. Every night, she tied her white belt with pride, lined up on the mat, and pushed herself to learn every move. For her, karate wasn't about winning, it was about belonging, about finding a space where she could grow stronger, not just in her body, but in her spirit. But belonging didn't come easily. From the first day, she noticed the whispers, the way some of the boys looked at her and then laughed among themselves, the way a couple of parents raised their eyebrows, as if asking why she was even here. Amara brushed it off at first. After all, she was used to being different in other spaces too, at school, at playgrounds, in stores. She thought maybe, just maybe, here it would be different. But the more she trained, the louder the mockery became. At first, it was subtle. A smirk when she stumbled, a laugh when she missed a kick. But then the words grew sharper. She doesn't belong. She's too weak. Why even try? Every time Amara felt the sting. Yet every time she clenched her fists, held back tears, and told herself to keep going. And then came the day of the sparring match. It was supposed to be a practice round, just a test of skills between students. Names were called, pairs were matched, and when the instructor read hers, Amara felt her stomach drop. She would face the boy who had mocked her the loudest, the one who sneered at her every move, the one who made it his mission to remind her she didn't belong. The dojo grew quieter as the two stepped onto the mat. For the other students, this was entertainment. For the parents watching, it was curiosity. For Amara, it was something far heavier. It wasn't just a fight. It was every insult, every laugh, every whisper piled onto her shoulders. And she knew this was the moment they had been waiting for. The moment they expected her to fail. The match began. Her opponent charged, fast and aggressive, the way he always was. Amara blocked, stumbled, but didn't fall. She steadied her breath, remembered every lesson, every correction her instructor had given. Again, he came at her, faster, harder, and again, she blocked. The dojo echoed with shouts, laughter, and anticipation. Some were cheering him on. No one was cheering for her. And in that silence, in that absence of support, something shifted inside Amara. She realized this wasn't just about karate anymore. It was about proving that she was not invisible, not weak, not what they believed her to be. The boy lunged again, his overconfidence leading his steps. This time, Amara didn't just block, she struck back. One move, clean and precise, landing exactly where it needed to. He faltered. The room fell silent. Another strike, faster, sharper. And then another. In less than a minute, the boy who had mocked her, who had laughed at her, was on the ground, defeated. The dojo erupted, not with laughter, not with sneers, but with stunned silence. They had expected her to fall. Instead, she had risen. For a moment, Amara stood frozen. Her chest heaved, her fists still clenched, her eyes wide. She wasn't sure what she had done, wasn't sure what would come next. But in that silence, in that space where no one could deny what had just happened, she felt something powerful. Validation. She had silenced them. She had shown them. She had proven, if only for that moment, that she belonged. But victory did not erase the pain. As Amara stepped off the mat, adrenaline still rushing through her veins, she could feel the weight of everything that had led to this moment. Every insult, every whisper, every doubt. Winning hadn't erased it. It had only exposed it. Because the truth was undeniable. She should never have had to prove herself this way. No child should. Yet here she was, carrying the burden of a fight that never should have been hers to begin with. That night, sitting alone in her room, Amara looked down at her bruised knuckles and felt the heaviness of what had happened. It wasn't just a sparring match, it was a reflection of something bigger, something crueler. It was the reality that people like her, black children, black families, were forced to carry every day in places where they should feel safe, in classrooms, on playgrounds, in neighborhoods. And now, even here, in the dojo she once thought was a haven. Still, amid the pain, she carried something else. The knowledge that she could endure, that she could rise above, that her existence, her victory, her presence, was defiance against a world that wanted her small, quiet, invisible. She hadn't just fought for herself. She had fought for every child who had been laughed at, excluded, and underestimated. Her story was their story too. The next day, the whispers still followed her. Some are in awe, some in resentment. But this time, Amara didn't bow her head. She walked taller, stronger, with the quiet power of someone who knew her worth. The battle wasn't over. It might never be. But she had faced the fire, and she had not been burned. Because this is what racial injustice does. It forces people to prove their humanity again and again, in ways no one should have to. It turns everyday spaces into battlegrounds. And until it changes, there will be more Amaras, carrying more weight than they should ever bear. The question is, how many more times must children prove their right to belong before the world finally listens?